Nikki Haley, nice to see you here live
Thank
and in
you.
person
Great to
in
be
New York. Europe hasn't seen a refugee crisis like this in 23 years. You have to go back to Kosovo. And that was relatively short-lived then. And what Connell lays out there is a long and complicated and multiplying issue for all of Europe.
It's why this is such a catastrophe, right? It's the million people. I mean, thank goodness for Poland and everyone being so welcoming. But this is going to be a huge effect on all of those European countries that are taking these refugees in. And the world is to see what's going to happen. And it's not over. This is going to last a long time. And you're going to see some dramatic effects on Europe.
The UN General Assembly yesterday had a vote. You know the UN well. Okay, so here was the vote tally. 141 countries voted in favor of a resolution deploring Russia's aggression against Ukraine. There were 4 countries that joined Russia in voting against the resolution, and 35 abstained. So I can understand the 4 that joined Russia, right? The abstentions are kind of interesting. What did you make of that vote yesterday? What did it mean?
Well, you know, it's always good when you've got the entire world coming together to condemn, you know, a violent dictator and everything that he's doing. I mean, there's no surprise that Russia's standing with Syria and North Korea, right? Those aren't great friends to have. You talk about the abstentions. I mean, I think it's also the reason why I think it's fascinating that the Arab community has not spoken up when this is an oil war, too, you know, and the reason that's happening is they don't trust that America will lead. And they don't trust that Putin will lose. So it's a tough situation. So all of those abstentions were, we don't know where to go. Look at India. Yeah. You know, look at some of these countries that are doing it. They don't know what's going to happen.
So much of this comes back to what's in the best interest of all these countries and these leaders. Here were those who joined voting with Russia. It was Belarus, obviously.
Yes.
North Korea, obviously. Syria, obviously. And Eritrea and northeastern Africa. Mm-hmm. Other than that, you had a great portion of the world vote in favor of what they were going for yesterday. Now, we saw this report yesterday. I don't know if it's true, but these Chechen fighters who are fighting on behalf of Putin's army went into Ukraine. Apparently, they were met with fierce fire, and the Ukrainians knocked them down. They are saying that they were tipped off by somebody back in Moscow. Might be the case. It might not. Putin, in all these pictures and all this video, he's sitting at the end of this very long table and has no direct contact with other human beings. Maybe it's COVID, or maybe he has innate sense of paranoia among the people who are around him in Moscow.
You know, like,
how much have you considered that possibility?
I think he knows that there's a threat that he would be eliminated because he's trying to eliminate Zelensky. Right? And so when you see the whole world coming against you, he was already paranoid before. I think you're going to see this move further. But I mean, this goes to how evil he is. I mean, keep in mind, this is the same man that helped, you know, Syria use chemical weapons against women and children. This is the same man who allowed for Malaysian Air to come down, you know, be shot down. This is the same man who tried to poison opponents and get them killed. So, you know, this is not a good actor. But then you go and you put this situation where he's being pushed in a corner. He absolutely is going to be paranoid.
It's interesting, too, that I read about Turkey and Erdogan, who has part of NATO, but also has strong ties with Putin, but apparently was very angry that felt that he was lied to, and some of their citizens, their Turkish citizens, they're caught in the danger. And so and that's also happening to China and many other nations. Did want to ask you about this. There was a European official that confirmed to Fox News Channel that China asked Putin to delay invading Ukraine until after the Beijing Olympics. Putin obviously complied with the request. We kind of knew that this might have been discussed, but now it's been confirmed by a European official to us.
I said that during the Olympics, when people asked if I thought Putin would invade, I said if it's going to happen, it's going to happen after February 20th, because we knew he wasn't going to do it during the Olympics for 2 reasons. He cared about the medal count, believe it or not, he does. And then secondly, he wasn't going to upset China. You know, there was no need to do that. He wasn't going to upset China. So he waited until after, and now he started to move. What we have to make sure we're doing is all eyes need to continue to be on China. As tragic as this is, China's looking at Russia saying this was sloppy. They didn't do it well. But China's not saying, OK, this is going to keep us from moving in on Taiwan. What they're saying is, OK, who's sending arms to Ukraine? Which companies are pulling out of Russia? How is the world reacting? This is about making sure their strategy is different. It's not if, it's when. They will move on Taiwan. They're just learning from every bit of this. And this should be a lesson to the world that the dependency Russia had on Europe and how dangerous that was, the dependency that the world has on China is going to be even bigger,
Wow.
stronger, and worse.
It's a great point. We're going to get to the oligarchs in a moment here, but I just want to get your commentary on it because you've met many of them because they come to New York. They make a lot of money by traveling all over the world, and they take advantage of some of the great luxuries in this world. New York City, St. Bart's, the south of France, they've got their yachts and their planes and their helicopters. But now you're starting to see a little bit of a fracture here. Does Putin keep all of these oligarchs in line, supporting him? Or do you start to see a break off of some of these, like Abramovich? His family's Jewish, right? He's going to sell a soccer team in England and put all the proceeds from the net earnings to the Ukrainian people. I mean, he clearly is torn by this. Do you see them standing in lockstep with Putin, or could there be a fracture there?
I think we've already seen a couple of them pull away. A couple of them have already condemned what Putin's doing. That doesn't bother me as much as we should be hitting the energy sector in Russia, period. Why Biden hasn't done that yet, that's what's going to hurt Putin. The only thing Putin cares about is the fact that Russia's a one-industry country. Hit them in the energy sector. Why are we exempting that? You do that, that's going to affect him so much more than any oligarch is going to affect him.
Good point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great to see you in person as well.
Great to be with you.
Please come back. Okay.